Hi, everyone. My name is Kirk Bachman, and welcome back to The Ultimate Dish. In today's episode, we're speaking with Chef Travis Smith, winner of 6 gold medals and 3 silver medals in the Culinary Olympics and World Cup competitions. He is a certified executive chef, certified executive sommelier, level 3 pro chef, and a fellow in the American Academy of Chefs. Travis has been the executive chef, sommelier, and consultant for many top U.S. resorts and other private establishments, including Bistro Colorado, which he founded in 2012. He is also an accomplished educator who has appeared on CBS This Morning, the NBC Today Show, and the Food Network. Join us today as we chat with Chef Travis about winning gold, his role in culinary leadership, and what he's got planned for the future. There he is. Good morning, Chef. I'm exhausted after that intro. Are you kidding me?
That's a lot. That's a mouthful. Good morning. How are you?
Ed, I'm really good. I'm really good. I'm super excited about this conversation today. What people won't know almost immediately is that we're neighbors, right? We're right up the road.
Yeah. I'm down here in Denver, which is really kind of my stomping grounds. I grew up in this area. So yeah, just down the road from Boulder where you're at.
Yeah. I was just going to ask. So were you born and raised in Colorado then?
Born in San Francisco, and then raised in the Denver area. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My parents moved out to Denver after I was only about 2 years old.
Lots of changes, right, in the last couple of decades.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things that happen here. Housing market has exploded. A lot of things have exploded as a result of, I think, the marijuana industry being legalized here in Colorado. So and then it's a great place to live. So
it is a great 100. Don't tell. I think they already know, but yeah, I agree. I enjoy my drive in, looking at the Flatirons every morning. How's the so we'll call it spring, but good start to the summer season for you, the golf season at the
Absolutely. Yeah. We just had a member event over the weekend, and very successful, highly successful. The weather cooperated with us. Everything here at this country club, Cherry Creek Country Club, where I'm at right now, is really golf driven. So it's been a great start, and people are loving the course, and the members are very excited about menu changes that we've made, and some upcoming things that we're getting ready to do. So it's
do you get a chance to get on to the fairway at all?
I do have that open invitation there for me. I haven't been yet. Actually, believe it or not, I haven't even done a golf ride around the course yet. Very unusual. Hit the ground running when I got in here, and just haven't. That hasn't been my focus quite yet.
Well, so. You're busy getting acclimated, and I mean, you are quite the active chef. It's an incredible career, such a powerful resume. You've done it all, and I like to use the term culinary leader. You've got your hands on all these different projects, and we got to know each other through the American Culinary Federation, which is just one piece of your body of work. So from consulting for country clubs to running country clubs, beverage directing, business development strategist. My biggest question, because a lot of students, future culinarians that hope to be in your seat one day, a big question is how do you prioritize? Now you're at a place in your career where the priority is probably the club and the members, but your education is at the top tier. Your certification levels are all encompassing, the competitions around the world, your mentoring, the consulting. How do you, what's the game plan look like every day, and how do you prioritize what's important?
Well, really, honestly, the game plan, the daily game plan, and I guess it almost sounds like maybe the vision of kind of what type of what type of a chef do you kind of see yourself as? I guess they correspond. I mean, my daily routine is honestly come in and make sure that the walk-ins are running, obviously, just do my checks, check on folks, make sure that they've got everything that they need, all the very base level, leadership type activities. But and then check the BEOs, make sure nothing has changed and all that kind of stuff. But for myself, starting out back in the 80s, I honestly didn't really, I don't think I really had a plan necessarily. I mean, I was excited about cooking in high school. I liked cooking as a kid. I did the career technology route when I was in high school for my final semester at a school in the Lakewood, Colorado area, close by, called Warren Occupational Technical Center. That school is still there. So a career tech, a VOTech, if you will, that's what we used to refer to them as. And then I was doing my apprenticeship in the Sheraton Hotel in Lakewood, which was right down the street from the school, honestly. And then when my chef, who was an ACF certified executive chef, Michael Campy, went off to take a bigger job at the Radisson in downtown Denver. That is now a Sheraton. It's been an Adams Mark. At one time, it was a Hilton hotel, but it's on the 16th Street Mall, very big, close to where the Brown Palace is located. And I was in the middle of my apprenticeship, and I saw how hard he was working, the hours, It was kind of daunting. And I thought, man, maybe I should consider where I'm going to be, what I'm going to be looking back on, when I'm later in my career, what's it going to look like, what's it going to feel like. So I really started exploring other options and looked at the military. And that's when I decided to join the Army. And upon graduation from my apprenticeship program, joined the Army. It was a good decision for me. It was great, life-changing, and that kind of got me, I would say, off the other track and onto a better track of, where do I see myself 20, 30 years down the road. It was during that time that I had already been competing in ACF sanctioned culinary competitions before I went into the military. So I was experienced with that, staying up all night, doing aspic overnight was, it's amazing how the human mind is. We remember way back to when our first food memories were, or our first, throwing rocks at something, cars, making stars on windshields, things that we never should have been doing, but how vivid our memories are. And my vivid memory of standing in the kitchen at the once Radisson Hotel, being the only one there through the night, glazing food with aspic for presentation. It's I can even smell the aspic as we talk about it now. But it's amazing. But because of my, I guess, decision and placing myself in a positive environment where, I was able to meet some people, didn't know anything about really the ACF's, I guess, career options, growth wise, as far as certification process and how one can grow through that. Honestly, until I started to compete at the higher levels and got a lot of exposure to some of the best chefs who had been very successful in the field, and kind of found some other mentors, always looking to mentors to see how they are doing it.
I love, not to cut you off, I love the idea that, and I've been there with you, right? The all night, it's really quiet. It seems like the evening takes forever, but I love how you started with the sort of the mise en place, right? You're walking through, all too often, I think we get caught up in, you go to work, you go right to your desk, your office or whatever, and you just start off where you left off. But I love the idea of when you're in a live, vibrant spot. Like, and I think that's what always kept me motivated, whether it's a hotel, a restaurant, a club, where there's just always something going on. Somebody's prepping, somebody's cleaning. But I love that. And it's a really, really good lesson for students. Check in on your people. Check in on your people. Make sure everyone has what they need. Make sure that the mise en place is there. Let's go just a little bit before, and thank you for your time in the military serving our country. Obviously, so grateful for that. So take us before that, even before your vocational training in high school. Of course, that's a lot of the profile of our students. Was there someone or something special growing up? Was there a grandma, a dad, a mom? Did the family love food? Did you cook around the table, sit around the table, cook together, that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, some of my most vivid food memories are reaching back to my childhood summer vacations out in Kansas. Very,
Mm-hmm.
very small town called Ellis, Kansas, near Hayes. People know Hayes
Yeah,
usually.
yeah, yeah, sure.
And just about 15 miles west of Hayes is where Ellis, Kansas is at. And that's where my dad grew up. So, my grandparents had, they had, the big backyard gardens. And we had a farm that my great grandparents had: horses, chickens, pigs, fresh eggs, fresh cream, fresh milk, and I can remember pouring milk onto our cereal. And it was like, wait a minute, what's all this thick stuff coming off the top? And it was cream, and it was so good. But
Yeah.
grandpa was a big cook. Norman Smith, he was an engineer on the Union Pacific Railroad by trade, but on the weekends he was a big cook, a huge fan, and would make things like galuskis and the just delicious cabbage stuff with beef and rice, and so good. And the bread that would accompany it, and then the fresh zucchini out of the garden, and just things like that. It was the cellar, the stairway going down to the basement, just stacked with home canned vegetables and things like that. I can smell that as well as we talk about it, the smell of the cellar going down the stairs, there in that home in Kansas. But
Gosh,
yeah, that's
I love that there's so many memories, right, that impact us.
mhm,
Sometimes we forget about those, but boy, they're coming right back to you as
sure.
as
Yeah,
we chat. Yeah, yeah, I love that. You're also, Chef, really big on education. Graduate of Culinary Institute of America. You hold an EMBA, as well as countless certifications, which I really want to emphasize takes a lot of work. There's a lot of work involved, not just cooking, but also studying and continuing education over the years to keep your certifications current. Um,
yeah,
I believe you've been involved with the Art Institute in Denver when that was still here. Metro State, probably working with Jackson Lamb over there.
sure.
Such a great network. So obviously, as a culinary school, we believe it's a critical step, right, in advancing someone's career. Um, if you could take us back, you started to frame that out a little bit, but fill in the gap of vocational school
Sure.
before you went to military. What were you working at the Sheridan then? I'd love to know what the catalyst was that, hey, this is going to be my career. Was
Okay,
it
so
was it campy leaving, or is it even before that?
no, it's before that. So
Okay.
so I started out as a dishwasher in one small restaurant. My cousin hooked me up with a job. I wasn't even 16 yet,
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
that was after the paper routes and the collecting of cans and anything to make some money so you could go and buy a Snickers, right?
Yeah.
But but dishwashing, and then I got into a country club here in the Lakewood, Colorado area called Pinehurst Country Club,
Oh
and I
yeah.
was
Yeah.
I was a bus boy there for a little while. but then I got into another opportunity, family-owned business called McCarty's Restaurant, and it was in Lakewood. And I mean, it was going in as a dishwasher with the potential of moving up and working into the kitchen there, which is kind of what I wanted to do. So I started off as a dishwasher, and then the busboy route, and then eventually they needed some help on the line. So I worked my way into that and started doing that. And while there, I was still in high school. My home ec teachers, back when we called it home ec, now they call it something else. I don't know what they call it, but it's
Culinary arts. Yeah.
It's your school. It's your class in high school where you can learn how to cook and sew and things like that, and
Yeah.
manage a checkbook. So one of my teachers told me about the Warren Tech program, and it was at the Warren Tech program, the Career Technology Center in Lakewood, that I had some instructors. Dennis Gomes, Ron Greenberg, and Sharon Murphy were my instructors down there. And the CIA, they were CIA grads, the two of the chef instructors, and Dennis Gomes more so was kind of the one who gave me the guidance or suggestion that I might want to look at an apprenticeship program through the American Culinary Federation. And he told me about Mike Campy just down the road, so they knew each other.
Okay. Yeah.
But because of I guess because of, I didn't honestly know what the Culinary Institute of America was at the time, but I did kind of ask my boss at the restaurant where I was at. I said, I would like to go to culinary school. Will you pay for it? And I'll come back here and work for you. That didn't go over very well. But that's when I started looking at, the Warren Tech program and that. So
kudos to ask for that, though, at such a young age. Hey, I'll go to the school, come back. That's brilliant.
Sure. I mean, I hadn't even graduated high school yet, but
yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I guess, what college or, upper level learning after high school, it's really just opening our eyes to everything that you can learn, because who would know that, who would know that, who Escoffier was, for example, without really digging into it and what his impact was, or Mark Pierre White there off your right shoulder.
All my favorite chefs notice it.
Sure.
Marco always comes up. I love you taking us on that journey, because we have those conversations with our students all the time. Whether it was 20 years ago or today, there are a lot of choices. There's lots of decisions to make. And I love the sort of the common denominator here, the fact that you remember the names of your instructors back in high school, and these mentors that help guide you, try to, not necessarily keep you in your own lane, but get you going into some lane, right? And that's
sure.
what's so important today for young people who want to pursue a career in our industry. Chef, was there a time, whether just getting started, going into the military, you started competing, was there a time when you stepped back perhaps and thought, wow, this is where I can make an impact, or I want to make an impact in the industry here? Was there a defining moment at some point where it just like, this is it?
One of those that comes to mind immediately for me when you ask that question, it was after I was about midway through my military career, and I was at the 10th Mountain Division in Fort Drum, New York, as a brand new warrant officer out of, Fort Rucker, Alabama. So I had moved from basically an executive sous chef level, if you will, in civilian terminology, to food and beverage advisor or director. So I kind of skipped over the executive chef role there, but and I did really well with it. But once I completed my tour with the 10th Mountain Division, which was a very critical time in my development for me. I grew tremendously as a culinarian during that time frame, but also um, since I did well with it, I was offered a couple of different really fantastic opportunities. And one of them was to take over the food operations at West Point. And the second one was actually the West Point job was the second one that I was offered. But the first one that I was offered was to manage the culinary arts training program for the Army at Fort Lee, Virginia. And it was, for me, I mean, it was like, okay, why are you giving me these two great choices at the same time? But I went down to check out the West Point opportunity, and I had already been to Fort Lee, Virginia many times as a competitor and for schooling and things like that. So I decided, well, that's definitely where the Army needs me. They need me at Fort Lee to head up the craft skills training. So that's what I decided on. And when I got there, I mean, leaving that job was the hardest. I think the hardest job that I've had to leave. It was really tough. It was emotional because I just felt like I belonged there and I didn't want to go anywhere. So, but I had to go back to South Korea. But I made my time there impactful, as you asked. What was a moment in your career, and that was it for me. To be able to take on the updating of the Army's culinary competition. I guess the whole vision of it, kind of where was it, or where had it been, where was it now, but where did it need to go? And I had the opportunity to make those changes, and to on the heels of a lot of the things that another gentleman who Chef Ed Leonard, was working diligently, and I think he was probably at the same time the president of the American Culinary Federation. So, and he had done a great job with the team of revitalizing the culinary competition guidelines for the American Culinary Federation. So I kind of took what had already been done and updated the Army's, if you will, culinary competition curriculum to match, and also to correspond with more what the military was doing on the day-to-day basis. And in addition to that, there were other things that I was looking at, like development of curriculum and trying to match or bring our middle and senior level culinarians in the Army up to speed on what we wanted to train, for the junior culinarians. But so it was a huge undertaking. We had a huge team of really dedicated people working on that, and that was definitely a big moment in my career that I always.
No, it's brilliant. I appreciate you sharing. It brings back memories for me as well. I visited Fort Lee just the one time. I was amazed. You may have moved on. I was with the certification commission of the ACF back when Carl Guggenmass and Ron DeSantis were kind of putting that together. Oh gosh, it's over a decade ago. We're aging ourselves, Chef. And sure. I could not believe, how well run that organization is. It was a really, really good experience for me. You've been a chef, an executive chef. You are an executive chef, culinary director, private club, consultant. You've come up with concepts. You've been an associate professor, general manager of your own restaurant. And what I find most interesting, and I believe our students would as well, is your ascension into culinary leadership. That's the key, not simply serving as the chef. And to go back to what you said this morning, you come in, you check on the people, make sure that the refrigerators are working. My father's a certified master pastry chef by the German standards. He always wanted me to make sure that there was ice in the ice machine. I never knew why, right? But
oh, sure, yeah.
We never went without ice. So let me say that.
Right.
I think it was more of that whole idea of make sure that everything is operating. So to come back to you then, you beyond simply serving as a chef, which is important, but to be a member of, whether it's the executive team or just the leadership team that is overseeing the work of others at a very macro level, is incredibly impressive to me. I spoke with a wonderful human being, a great chef from Tennessee the other day. His name's Eric Neal. He's got a cool couple of restaurants in the Chattanooga area.
That's where my mom's from.
Oh, yeah, beautiful part of the country, right? And great food.
Yeah.
And he said something that was really interesting on the show. He said that if you only want to cook, don't own your own restaurant. It will get in the way. What is that a pretty darn accurate? I mean, you've got
for sure. Yeah.
payroll, ordering, purchasing, HR.
All of it.
It's hard to cook every day, right?
It really is. I mean, there was a time when I felt as though I needed to touch every single plate going out of my own restaurant, that if it wasn't me cooking it, it wasn't going to be served. Which was the wrong attitude for me to have. You know, it took me a little while to kind of get over that, but I had a great leader counterpart when we first opened, who also co-taught with me at the Art Institute. And it was a really nice way to kind of segue from from that. But I learned a tremendous amount from that. Charles Anderson was his name, and it was just fantastic. A lot of people will know the name, but he he kind of brought me out from behind the stoves more, I would say. And then honestly, at the end of the day, you have to step out from behind the stoves when you have your own restaurant. You can't make soup all the time, you know. That's what another one of our colleagues, Brad Barnes, would say. I remember him saying that a couple of times in a couple of different seminars, I think with the ACF probably. But figuring out the bookkeeping part, keeping track of your spending, and all of that kind of thing. It's rough, but there's a lot more to owning your own restaurant than making eggs Benedict and so on. So
I was at a Star Chefs conference years ago in New York City, and the guests were Eric Ripert and Daniel Boulou. They were up on stage, and they were just talking about their experience coming over from France and all that. And someone asked the question of either chefs, who cooks in the restaurant when you're not there? And they both kind of giggled, right? And then Ripert finally responded by saying, well, I assume the same people that cook when I am there.
Right.
And it really,
I hope so.
I of course, right. There's so much else to do. I'm really curious about that, specifically in the country club business. It's a completely different animal. Many moons ago, I was the executive chef of a private club in Oregon, and it was really unique. You mentioned at the beginning of the show, we had a really good event this weekend, which tells me immediately what you did all weekend, right? Putting on an extraordinary event, right, with your people. Could you share with our listeners what is the biggest? You've done it all. You've been in the restaurant, your own restaurant, hotel, Sheraton, so on and so forth, and country clubs. It's got to be good food. It's got to be tremendous customer service. It's got to be engaging work with your employees, thoughtful work with your employees. But what are some of the really big differences between being a country club chef versus, let's say, a freestanding restaurant?
Cash flow is one of the most tremendous differences, because with the country club business, it's truly a business of membership dues, driving membership, making it worthwhile for people to join the country club. That keeps cash flow moving.
Okay.
So food service and hospitality is really an amenity in the country club world. So it's you have to do it very well. You have to do it extremely well. The food cost flexibility is much greater.
Mhm.
In some cases, 50% food cost is fine. It's just fine. Um, and planning for a loss. Country clubs plan for a loss in food and beverage in the a la carte world.
Mhm.
They also plan for a gain in the banquet and catering world. So, knowing in January, okay, by next December, we're going to lose. If we're on budget, we're gonna overspend by $200,000 or $300,000 or whatever it is. But like I said, in the start, it's a numbers game where membership dues and initiation fees and that kind of stuff. That's what really um, keeps a country club profitable. Golf, also big revenue, but so it's amenity world.
That's so consistent with my experience as well. I was a younger chef back then, and I was
Mhm.
obsessed with maintaining food costs and hitting budgets, and because oftentimes back then bonuses were tied into that, and I could always remember going in front of the board or the general manager, and they used to always say the same thing: "Don't worry about the food budget." Don't
Right.
worry about it.
Sure.
Just give them what they want. Give them what they want. So, I mean, I think it's a tremendous experience for anyone who's never experienced the ability to just really focus on an incredible food, quality ingredients, and just a tremendous experience for your members, for your guests, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
They
yeah.
say they
Super.
say in the country club world, I mean, it's really no different than owning your own restaurant in some regards, because you want to have the best. You want to have the very best cheeseburger if you have your own restaurant. It's got to be the very best. That, hey, this is the best cheeseburger. I'm very proud of it. Same thing goes over for country club. Um, just having the very best of everything. Um, the very best bolognese and the very best hamburger, along with the finest filet mignon, and on the higher end as well. But it is a different world, and it's very interesting. It's seasonal as well. A lot of the
Yeah,
clubs are
yeah.
very seasonal, and so knowing that you're working 70 hours or more, maybe during the peak season, I guess knowing that maybe when it slows down, when the snow starts falling, we'll get a break.
Yeah. Well, it's the same. It's the same in the big resort world too. Brad Nelson, global chef for Marriott worldwide. He told me once the three most important things at Marriott are a great cheeseburger, a tremendous Caesar salad, and a perfect club sandwich. Period. Number one sellers, and they had to be perfect. Had to be
Right.
perfect. Speaking of being perfect,
Yeah.
um, you've won or as close as possible, right? You've won, several gold medals, and you've been to the Culinary Olympics. It's a whole different world, right? Many World Cup events. And there are so many up and coming cooks, right? Who maybe just don't really understand how competition can help develop culinary acumen. And there's lots of different schools of thoughts, right? You have some of the folks that are going down the Baku d'Or. I'm just going to focus on the Baku d'Or, nothing else. That's for me, that's number one, versus
Mhm.
the variety of competitions and challenges that come along with typical ACF competitions. What is it about competition in general that inspires you, chef?
Um, I guess because of my experience with competition, I'm able to think about what is that best cheeseburger, club sandwich, or Caesar salad, like you alluded to. What makes that possible? How does that go together? Um, so it's putting together that perfect dish, with that perfectly cooked main entree protein and the side dishes and the sauces that go along with it. How do you create the perfect bite where you have a little bit of everything from the plate, and you taste it all together at one time? And what's that like? Not only that, but if you're in team competition, it's like, okay, how do we have a common goal to win, to be the very best, to be our very best, to be better than we have ever been before as a team. And how do we do that? We do that by practicing to our highest level that we believe, okay, this is our highest level. We're going to practice to this extremely high standard, and we're going to get critiques. We're going to bring in highly qualified judges who have also competed at the highest levels, and we're going to ask them to give us critiques, tell us
who
how
sometimes are your peers, right? So very, very difficult. Yeah.
Sure. Peers, mentors, and then taking that feedback and turning around and say, okay, now let's tweak this here, let's tweak this, and let's get better. And everything is looked at, from sanitation and personal hygiene to the way that the team communicates with one another, and the motivation, the energy in the kitchen is important, and just the ultimate, service of the food, or the presentation of the food, and then the final taste, the textures, the consistency of the sauces, the temperatures of the food. If it's mashed potatoes of some type, then it's got to be piping hot. It can't be, you can't be lukewarm. The whole thing, everything goes into it. So it's really like doing what restaurants strive to do every single day, but asking the most, I guess, the best experts to give you critique, and then see where you land.
Any memories of just particularly difficult situations and how you overcome it, or perhaps those are memories we don't want to revisit, right?
Overcoming challenges is always the name of the game. You're going to face challenges of some kind. I remember, I think it was in the 2000 Olympics in Erfurt, Germany, and we had a 24-hour time window to produce our entire cold program almost from start to finish. You could come in with basic mise en place done. But I can, like it was yesterday, feel the anxiousness that we all shared of, standing there in the kitchen. 2 of us were on appetizers, 2 on main entrees, and 2 on pastry, in a 24-hour time window. And we've got to get everything prepared, glazed, cleaned, and then presented on platters and plates, and then delivered and set up within that 24-hour time window. It turned out very, very well for us. That's the year that we won the triple gold, the high gold in hot food, the high gold in cold food, and then the overall for the military. It turned out very well for us. And Ed Leonard greeted me as we were coming off the stage. Chef Ed Leonard did, and he says, you've come a long way, since I took Ed Leonard on as one of my mentors in about 1997, when I competed at a culinary competition in Manchester, New Hampshire. And I was stationed with the 10th Mountain Division at that time. So I was still active duty in the Army. And I had done some kind of a duck dish, and I called it a Korean duck dish. I had spent time in Korea, so I thought, I know a little bit about Korean food, right? But there was some Chinese components to it and some other things, And he's like, if you're going to make a dish and you're going to call it Korean, make sure you know what you're talking about, and things like that. But it was the whole thing. So from 97 to 2000, and his greeting me as we came off the stage, saying, that's job well done, proud of you, come a long ways, type of thing. It was a good feeling.
Yeah, I can imagine. In the same sort of context, Chef, what advice would you give to aspiring, not just chefs or cooks, but someone who would want to follow in your footsteps and compete?
I think their why is important. Everybody, to identify what your why is, why you want to do it. I think that's pretty critical. To know on the outset. And maybe they don't know the why. Maybe they just say, I want to win a gold medal. I want to have the accolade of being on the U.S. Culinary Olympic team. And, but I think it's really a tremendous learning opportunity. It's a growth opportunity for aspiring, culinarians to be at the top of their game. And if that's the why, then I say go for it 100%. And I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's about the culinary competition world is about making all of us strive to make the best food possible, I think. Marco Pierre White might disagree. Gordon Ramsay may disagree. Those top, sincerely top chefs, they're amazing. I worked with another chef who was equally as amazing, Lou Jones, out of he actually retired from the Culinary Institute of America recently, but he followed Gordon Ramsay 2 years later and won the Chef of the Year for the United Kingdom. And he was our team captain for the 1992 Culinary Olympics with the military, and getting exposure to working with someone like him, who we went to the Chicago NRA show one year, and we were competing, and for me to be in the same kitchen and observe the way that he just did it, I mean, he just did it. He was a great chef on both sides of the house, pastry and the savory side. And to be in the presence of greatness like that is so inspiring, and just so wonderful. But you make a lot of good friends in the culinary competition world, and there's a lot to be there's a lot of positives. I have no regrets.
Those are great stories, great memories. What's next for you, Chef? Any more competitions in the future, or going to stay put here? Stay put here in Colorado?
Most likely. I mean, my family's here. I don't honestly know if you got to leave the door open, to opportunity. If you have a great opportunity that's worth considering, then absolutely, I think that's important to do, because there are some fantastic places that this career can take us. And sometimes those places are, tropical, where the family doesn't mind coming to visit, for example. So you never know. You never know.
Speaking of family and great memories and thoughts, the name of the podcast is The Ultimate Dish, and we're getting towards the end here. So in your mind, whether it's a memory or a specific menu, what's the ultimate dish, Chef?
It is a great question. I think that I could take this back to probably 1997, and I was creating a dish. The category was chicken, and it was for the 1 hour culinary competition that the ACF has, the contemporary category for chicken. And this was right after I had my experience competing in Manchester, New Hampshire, where Ed Leonard was influential on my trajectory. And I created a dish it was called a New York autumn roasted chicken. And with that dish, I decided, well, I need to break this chicken down to where I'm getting total utilization out of the chicken, and I'm exhibiting a number of skills, making sausage, making a force meat, stuffing it into the chicken breast, and then maybe smoking the sausage to provide that component and flavor profile, along with I was using pumpkin as my starch. So I did a pumpkin, a Duchess style pumpkin with apples or diced apple and walnuts as the filling. I did a brandy glazed apple tournée, maple glazed autumn vegetables, and a wild mushroom sauce, and just all of it together. I mean, it screamed autumn, it screamed New York, and the skills were very refined. I had rehearsed that dish a number of times, and it was probably the closest to perfect that I have ever prepared a dish for myself. On the scale of 40, I got a 39.5, which for me was just fabulous, you know. So I think if we shoot for perfection and we settle for excellence, then we're on to something. But that was a good day in the kitchen.
What a great memory, and an amazing memory. You're a storyteller, chef, and I love it. Thanks so much and congratulations. 39.5. I would have fought for that 0.5, by the way.
Yeah, I probably could have got it. It was Dale Miller.
No way, Mr. Miller. Yeah,
Dale
wow.
Miller and Anton Flory were the two
Oh,
judges.
wow.
Yeah, and Fritz Sonnenschmidt was also supposed to be there, but it was a snowy day and he wasn't able to make it in, unfortunately. So
two super quick stories. So Chef Miller judged me once at a competition in Wisconsin, and maybe he mellowed out a little bit. He was incredibly helpful and thoughtful. And then my super quick Fritz story. I think I was in Orlando for an ACF conference, and I was about to do a demonstration, and I was behind the scenes, right in the hallway, because it was at that big Marriott Center, right? And so I was a little nervous, right? You're up. I think Metz was in the audience, right? You know, so, and I was doing a German dish, and here's Sonnenschmidt. He's sitting on a bucket, eating a bunch of lamb chops with his hands. He's like, "What are you nervous about? It's just food. It's just food."
That's right.
Oh gosh, I love
He's
it.
funny.
Thank you so much for the memories, Chef.
You're welcome.
I know that you have a super busy day. Thanks for kicking off the morning with us, and come on down to the school anytime. I'll do the same. I'll come up to see you at the club. I'll probably wait till it's not too busy, right? This is your busy season.
Right.
But, yeah. You're welcome anytime, my friend.
Thank you, Chef. All the best.
You as well. You too, Chef. Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Dish Podcast, brought to you by Auguste Escoffier School of Culinary Arts. Visit escoffier.edu/podcast, where you'll find any materials mentioned during the podcast, including notes, links, and other resources. You can also browse other episodes and subscribe.